All right, y'all. Welcome back to episode 16 of Uncomfy Truths. All right, providing you a bi weekly dose of an unapologetic black face trapped in a woke place, sharing common sense in a nonsense world. I am your co host, conservative brother Daily, back at it again with my co host, Conspiracy Brother. How you doing, good sir?
Not doing too bad. Glad to finally have some things working out a little better. Have a new background, have some backgrounds we might shift through as the show goes on. Not today, but just as our show continues to develop, just trying to do some small upgrades as we can, as we have time to. This is a two-man operation. We don't have producers, we don't have any type of editing. This is two guys who have a passion for delivering truth. And so, as we try to update things and upgrade things, we hope you like what we're able to do. We are simulcast streaming on Rumble now. So we should be able to, from now on, have our show on Rumble streaming as well as on YouTube live. I've still got to upload episode 15 onto Rumble because it wasn't doing that before.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I said, this is a two-man operation, and some of this we're just figuring it out as we go along. Um, other than that, I'm glad to be back with you, brother, and to
Yep.
discuss some of the things we didn't get to finish discussing last week, and some things that have transpired in the news since our last show. We do have new text scroll on the bottom of the screens that'll have information for you that will change as the show grows, as members show up and things like that, super chats and things. But so yeah, right now we're just in the process of kind of navigating this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said, I hope you will like some of the changes we made, some of the upgrades we tried to make, and where we're trying to go, as well as give you great information. So I'll let you take it from there, or do you want me to take it?
Oh no, you couldn't have summed it up any better. Yeah, if you wanted to go ahead, we could kind of just dive right on into the first article. I know, conspiracy brother, you definitely had this on your mind. Obviously, this is a recent development since our last live show. So go ahead if you want to. I can kind of scroll down and you can kind of go through the article. Then we can sort of break it down.
Okay, so the title of this article is from Reuters, and it says Zelensky confident U.S. won't quote betray end quote Ukraine over financial support. And this, if we can remember the quote I gave from Henry Kissinger last video, where
Hmm.
he says, to be an enemy of the United States is dangerous, but to be a friend is fatal. Understand that within this context, because your boy Zelensky is maybe seeing some writing on the wall, and as empires tend to do with their toys and tools, when they've served their purpose, they tend to cast them aside. So let's see. It says Kiev, December 19th, Reuters. Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelensky said on Tuesday he was confident the U.S. would not, quote, betray, end quote, his country by withholding crucial wartime funding as it fights off a Russian invasion. Aid for Ukraine has been held up by Republicans in the U.S. Congress, and the White House has warned that it will run out by the end of the year if not renewed. As far as I know, it wasn't renewed because they
Hmm.
don't work as close to Christmas as everybody else. And this is the Friday before Christmas, and Christmas is Monday. It didn't pass. Aid for Ukraine has been, so I read that. Quote, we are working very hard on this, and I am certain the United States of America will not betray us, and that on which we agreed in the United States will be fulfilled completely. End quote. I should have read that in his voice. We are working very hard on this. He kind of sounds like a Russian cookie monster.
Yes, yes.
And I am
Biden.
certain the United States of America will not betray us, and that
Yes.
on each we agreed in the United States will be fulfilled completely. So,
Yes. Yes. Him and Klaus Schwab, man. They some they
well,
are cartoon villains right out of a movie. I don't know
man,
what it
I'm
is.
telling you. Zelensky said during a televised press briefing in Kiev. Oh, I want to say this too. So
Yeah.
my dad said I cussed too much last
No.
show. So I'm
You and me
a full
both.
grown man with a wife and kids, and so my dad told me I need to watch the cussing. So I'll kind of be mindful of that, Dad. He added that financial assistance was key to Ukraine's defense from Moscow's full-scale attack, which is nearing its 2-year mark and showing no signs of abating. So you remember, I remember this guy on YouTube named Adam something. I found his videos when he was critiquing anarcho-capitalism, libertarianism, right libertarianism, and so I thought he was a pretty intelligent guy. And as it pertains to that discussion, I think he was on point. I think he lives in like Serbia or something. I'm not sure. It could be a Baltic country. But then he started making videos after this whole thing broke out about Russia. And he clearly lived in a former Soviet country who was bitter about the Soviet Union. And so a lot of his takes, he said, if Ukraine can just withstand the Russian onslaught for 10 days, Russia will, stop, basically. They'll be destroyed, and they'll have used all their weaponry and all this, and they'll be and they'll go back to Russia with their tail between their legs, and Kiev will be victorious. And I would troll him a little bit on his show and say, we're 1 year into a 10-day defense, and Russia loses war. And I just want to know where you got your intelligence from, because like we've talked about, and I said specifically, you have so many people who speak about all these different aspects of foreign leaders, and I'm talking about U.S. talking heads, major media personalities, speaking about Putin, what he likes, what he does, who he is. And even if they say things that seem to be more fair and balanced, unless they're telling you that, they have, or unless you have some kind of proof that they have an intimate relationship with Putin, they don't know jack crap, right, about Putin. Okay. They don't know the man from Adam. They don't know about the inner workings of the Russian economy, or, unless you have seen footage of them, or you have seen where they read information and they presented the information to you that they have gone to Russia and engaged with the Russian people and the Russian government in any meaningful way. They're making things up. And so, what they tried to tell you early on during this special military operation, the SMO, is that Russia was weak. And I mean, as you can see, based on the international response, based on the way that Russia has responded, and the way international response as it pertains to BRICS, things of that nature, Russia is not weak. They are not alone in this world, the global world, right? They have a lot of friends and they have a lot of allies, and the U.S. doesn't have as many as they think. What they end up doing is strong arming people, and so they go along with the U.S. because there's no counterweight. The Soviet Union was a counterweight to American world hegemony, or hegemony, however you want to pronounce it. After the Soviet Union fell, there was no counterweight in the world. China wasn't who it is right now. Russia wasn't who it is right now. Europe is not a counterweight. It's a vassal state, right? Even though Europe is a continent, the union of those countries is a vassal state to U.S. interests. Deep state, more likely globalist interests, but the U.S. is also a vassal to those same interests, but on the higher side of the totem pole. Canada is a vassal state of the United States and its interests. Japan, vassal state. South Korea, same. And so that is America, right? You have a bully, and everybody's nice to this bully because at any moment the bully might flip and kill you or beat you up severely. And so you have to just you laugh at his jokes and you bide your time. You bide your time until you have an opportunity to fight back, or maybe the group of you weak kids fight back together. You come together. So again, sorry for the digression, but I wanted to try to give some context. So here it is, a quote. They should know, our American partners, that we're waiting for this aid. They know the details of what it's needed for, how it will influence the situation. End quote, he said. And again, this is all in good fun. The events that we're discussing are very serious, but it's just intent to bring some levity to the situation, because whether you get bent out of shape about it or whether you laugh, there are people dying, right? Innocent people are dying. If I'm not mistaken, the average age of the Ukrainian citizen army or serviceman is 43 years old, because so many of the young men have been killed by the Russians. So so many of their young soldiers, right? Because the Ukrainians and the U.S., the U.S. and the Ukrainians by proxy have sent their sons to die for nothing, because Russia is not willing to concede anything as it pertains to its own safety and self-preservation. Okay, they're even getting to a point now where they're considering bringing in women. Okay, they've got men in the Russia and the Ukrainian military as old as 60 something. All right, you wiped out a generation of men in Ukraine, and by extension a generation of life, because you cannot, as yet, you cannot reproduce asexually, right? So, I mean, we need to understand the globalist plot: depopulation, okay, population control, mass murder for the sake of, Warren Buffett, George Soros, Bill Gates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So let's see. He also said he expected the European Union to approve a 50 billion euro aid package soon. EU leaders approved the launch of membership negotiations, but Hungary blocked the aid package. And there's actually a little bit of information with that. So Hungary, Viktor Orban, who's the president or prime minister of Hungary, he's the head of state, whatever you want to call it. He's the top dog there, because I think they have a prime minister and a president. But he's the top dog. And he talked about how he was going to block ascension of Moldova and Ukraine into the European Union. But when it was time to vote, he abstained. You have to have unanimous consent from every EU member who is present when you vote in order for a motion to pass, or I guess for the ascension of a new member. And so when they voted, even though Orban said he was going to veto it, or he was going to vote no, he left the room. And so instead of 27 EU members that needed to vote yes, you only needed 26, because they essentially abstained. So let's see. Quote, "I'm confident that we have already achieved all this," end quote, Zelensky said. Quote, "The question now is one of certain matter of time," end quote. So Ukraine hopes to plug a $43 billion budget deficit next year, mostly with foreign aid, including 18.5 billion euros from the European Union and more than 8 billion from a U.S. package that also contains vital military assistance. And I broke down on another show that I do the amount of aid that Ukraine has received that we know of, and it's like $170 billion or something. And so the problem is, when you look at the Maui wildfires, the East Palestine, Ohio train derailment, and all the subsequent derailments that have occurred, okay, when you look at crumbling infrastructure, when you look at shutting down schools all around the country, and the influx of migrants coming in who have been receiving state and government benefits, while simultaneously American citizens are being cast aside, you wonder with what interest does the U.S. government continue to offer this aid? And you question why, if it is possible for the government to continue to just print money indefinitely in this way, why we need to pay taxes. Right? If we're operating from budget deficits, if we're operating from increased debt, right? I don't know if you want to pull up the debt clock, it's like 30-something trillion dollars. They estimate that we'll be increasing the debt by $1 trillion a month soon.
Oh, I believe it. I don't need a clock for that. Yeah, man.
And when you look at that, and you sit down and you listen to that, and you understand those figures, how can America afford to do this? And it's not even a situation where I'm saying we can't afford to do it. What I want to know is how we can afford to do it. If they say we can, and I take them at face value that we can, how is it done? And why do I still have to pay taxes? Because you hear people say taxation is theft and it's slavery and things. And if taxes are used properly and the system is not corrupt, I disagree with that premise. But in the face of this unsurmountable evidence, you have to at least concede that it is logical to believe that taxation is theft, that it is pointless, that the way that we can magic money up for all these foreign conflicts, Israel, Ukraine, etc., the Philippines, etc., U.S. is building military bases in the Philippines. We can magic up this money out of apparent thin air. Why is it necessary for American people to pay taxes?
Hey, bro, and I talked about this in our group chat earlier this week. It is really the U.S. taxpayer system, at least where we are right now, is the modern day extortion tax. And, think what you want about, obviously, the, American founding fathers and obviously the ones involved in the Boston Tea Party. Obviously, the Americans back then, they had their share of issues. But they were having the Boston Tea Party. They were going in the American Revolution over 3% tax. Yet nowadays, we just sit back and take a 35%, 50% cut.
Right. And 35% tax without including inflation.
Without including the tax that you buy every day, everyday products you go out and get, and all the other tax with that. But we just sort of just sit back and just take it, just like the just like that staff, that Senate staffer. We got to talk about that too. The one that
man.
We're gonna get to that one too. We got Epstein fine law coming up, but yeah, we got that.
Oh, yeah, man. And we might have to do a special entry on that because that one is gonna be big.
But yeah, we still on the Zelensky.
So here we go. He added that financial assistance was key to Ukraine's defense from Moscow's full-scale attack, which is nearing its 2-year mark and showing no signs of abating. So I read that once and just read it again. You can scroll down a bit. That's the big boy right there. That's Joe Biden's and Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer and Lindsey Graham's big boy right there, smiling, smiling like a big boy. I'm not going to do his voice anymore because I'm getting tired of it. But it's a quote, "They should know, our American partners, that we're waiting for this aid. They know the details of what is needed, how it will influence the situation," in quote. He said, I think I read that, but maybe not. He also said he expected the European Union to approve a 50 billion euro aid package. Oh, yeah, no. So I did read that. So scroll down more. Let's see.
Oh, yeah, you did. Yeah, you read this whole article, actually. It was a short read.
Quote, "I'm confident we have already achieved all this," end quote. Zelensky said, "The question now is one of a certain matter of time," end quote. Ukraine hopes to. Oh yeah, you were right. You were right.
You read this already. Yeah, the whole article.
But I do want to bring up something else about that. Okay. 2 years on, Russia shows no signs of abating, and the U.S. is already paying the pensions of Ukrainian citizens, paying their pensions, paying their schools and teachers, paying their emergency support staff, fire, EMS, police. But let's all remember, what was the first impeachment about? What was the first Trump impeachment about? Let's see if you can remember
Ooh.
Conservative Brother.
Ooh. All right, pop
I
quiz.
know you remember, but what was it about?
I think it was probably like when they were thick into Russiagate, and they were like, "Oh, he colluded with Russia." Something to do with like
Close.
him colluding. All right,
Close.
what was it?
It was about Ukraine.
Oh, because he called out Ukraine. He called out the.
Right. He wanted Zelensky. That was the contention was he was trying to blackmail Zelensky with U.S. aid by having him investigate Joe Biden and his family and Hunter and what they were doing in Kiev with that Burisma company. That was what the first impeachment was about. And I think the guy's name was Eric Chermarella or whatever. He was the CIA analyst who was stationed in the White House. And after he did this whistleblower thing, he was protected by all these people in government, the Democrats. And then he was moved somewhere, and they would, like, if you said his name on YouTube, they would kill your video. They wouldn't even let you say his name on TV. They was blurring his name on TV. And they want you to believe he's a whistleblower. No whistleblower in government history haven't gone to jail or had their life threatened if there was really a whistleblower and not some kind of plant. John Kiriakou was a CIA agent. He went to prison for reporting on torture. He lost his pension and was tortured and went to prison, I believe, for 9 years in federal prison or 7 years in federal prison for reporting on torture.
Now, was that under the Espionage Act and all of Obama's?
No, I don't even think it was under the Espionage Act. I'm not sure. It could have been, but I'm not sure. I can't remember.
Yeah.
He's not the only one. Edward Snowden lives in Russia now because he reported that the U.S. government was spying on everybody, reading their emails, and their text messages, and they're listening to their phone calls, and nobody's going to jail for it. When you're a real whistleblower, they treat you like they treated Tara Reid, who said Joe Biden sexually assaulted her in the Senate. She lives in Russia now.
She had to get out.
And she just opened a civil rights civil rights complaint against the FBI because she said they were following her, they were tapping her, and they tap all of us. So that's not, but because she filed a complaint 30 years ago against Joe Biden, her life was ruined. But me too. And so understand that. But that's why. And nobody thinks it's strange that the country that Trump got impeached for trying to get information about the true corruptness of the Biden family. I'll just throw them all together. His brother, Joe's brother, his son, and himself. Not to mention Nancy Pelosi's son, Mitt Romney's son, and John Kerry's stepson. Is the country we forking over billions of dollars to, hundreds of billions of dollars to.
Facts.
And threatening to have to give military aid in the form of U.S. soldiers on the ground fighting in Ukraine. That ain't strange to nobody.
Well, nothing to see here. Sounds strange to me, but you know, the mainstream normies, nothing to see here. You know, establishment.
Right. When you're so invested in a narrative that you'd rather be right than have truth, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And while that might sound like a contradiction that you can be right and not have the truth, all you have to understand is the way the mainstream media interprets all the information. And this is why privacy protection is so important. When we look at constitutional protections, it's so important because a lot of people take this idea with the Fourth Amendment, the right to protection from unlawful search and seizure, and et cetera, et cetera. that if you don't have anything to hide, you don't have anything to be worried about. So when you interact with the police, if you don't have anything to hide, you should be able to be forthcoming. Issue is that in a corrupt system, at any moment, they could either create or implement some rule or law that allows you to be taken into custody or harassed at some point.
Yep.
It's not a fair and just system where, everybody is playing straight up. You are at the mercy of the state. And the police are the enforcement arm of the state. Your mayor, your governor, I've said this before, they're not coming out and beating you down during the lockdowns. The mayor, the governor, the county executive, they weren't going around arresting you or harassing you if you broke curfew, if you didn't wear a mask, if the president, while he might have used the bully pulpit to denigrate people, he wasn't out here enforcing any of these policies. It was the police, it was the National Guard, or it was the military. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, the people, the local.
In an unjust system, you cannot find truth anywhere within that system. You can't do it. So we can go to the next. But most certainly the U.S. is going to be. Oh, I remember. The U.S. is going to betray him because their interests are. The U.S. cannot have its attention split between China, the Israel conflict, and Ukraine.
That was the nail in the coffin.
Israel, they already want to do stuff against China. And with this Israel situation cropping up, the U.S. is going to let Ukraine die.
Yeah, it's on to the next.
Right. The U.S. has installed and sustained dictators around the world for years, decades. And when they were finished, look at Osama bin Laden. Look at Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein came to Michigan and received a medal, I believe, like a key to the city from the city of Dearborn.
Wow, this had to be what, late 80s?
Yeah.
70s?
You can look up pictures. He received it. He was like one of the biggest donors.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. Papa Doc Duvalier in Haiti was a dictator who was in power for like 30 years. Batista in Cuba. Except that he was overthrown by the communist revolution, he would be in power today. Augusto Pinochet in Chile was a dictator who threw people from helicopters, literally. He was in power. The U.S. installed, you can find it online, but U.S. installed dictators in Brazil. They had multiple military dictatorships supported by the U.S. government in Brazil, in South America, in Central America.
Yeah.
Okay. When you remember the situation in Nicaragua, the Shah of Iran, right? Even the Shah of Iran was put in by the U.S. And then the Shah was overthrown by the Islamic Revolution that was funded by the U.S. The Taliban and or Al-Qaeda are directly born out of the Mujahideen, which was a anti-communist Islamic militant terrorist organization that the U.S. funded when the Soviet Union went into Afghanistan in the 80s. The U.S. used to work with Saddam, not Saddam, him, but Osama bin Laden.
Well, yeah, he was
in the 80s.
He was CIA asset. Yep.
Him and the Bush family are tight. I don't believe the guy is dead personally, because it doesn't make sense that you would tell me that. I mean, the whole thing is bullshit. Sorry.
Well, we went in and shot him in the face, and then we buried him at sea because we didn't want any of his followers
to bury him at sea. I'm sure it is. But I bet it's also embarrassing against Islamic custom to parade his body around the United States and do autopsies on him and look at him. You see what I'm saying? But you didn't see a body.
Yeah.
You didn't see any clear footage of what happened, but they told you. This is another long line of U.S. fools and flunkies. That's what this is. When the U.S. has a use for you, you're good as gold.
Yep.
After they're done with you, your name is mud. Zelensky's on his last legs. His people are going to kill him.
Exactly. And I just got to cut in here because this was, once again, everything you're saying and kind of the culmination, just for those watching, Uncomfy Truths. It rings true. Dave Smith, libertarian comic Dave Smith's quote, and I've said it over and over again. If you want to look at who America's next enemy is, look at who we're funding now. And I think a lot of people that are still getting caught up in the China-Taiwan situation and then now the Israel-Palestine situation, they're falling for the same psyop, the same rah-rah, this crazy thing happened, and I got to go lockstep with what the mainstream establishment wants. But a lot of people just need to even remember where Ukraine actually at one point, conspiracy brother, no, you know this, it used to be a somewhat of a democracy up until 2014. And just how there's a lot of people, the same people who think that, the Israel-Palestine conflict started October 7th with the Hamas attacks. They think the Ukraine-Russia conflict just started February 2022 when Putin suddenly invaded. But the underlying belly of it is the fact that, once again, Ukraine was a democracy until 2014. It had a democratically elected president that was friendly, leaning, neutral with Russia. Then the CIA comes along. They constructed the coup using $5 billion funding the Maidan Rebellion. All right. The Maidan Rebellion would take that democratically president, the name's escaping me who he was at the time, to take him out of power. This was in
Petro Poroshenko.
Yeah, Petro Poroshenko.
And I believe that was his name. It could have been. Yeah. Poroshenko might have been the president who replaced him after the interim president. But I believe it was
talking like the democratically elected president of Ukraine in 2014. And then once again, the Maidan Rebellion, CIA funded that for $5 billion to take him out. That happened in Baz and Lugansk. Is it Lugansk or Lugansk?
Lugansk. So Lugansk. No, Poroshenko was the president. He was the president from 14 to 19. So no, before him was
the guy before that. They got kicked out.
Viktor Yanukovych. Viktor Yanukovych.
Okay, so basically they overthrew the Ukrainian government, the US CIA funded in 2014. They put in a government that killed over 14,000 ethnic Russians in Baz and Lugansk, the citizens of Baz and Lugansk. And these are the same citizens that voted over 90%. Yeah, ethnic Lugansk that voted over 90% for that president and only 10%. Well, not actually, no, what happened was they voted, these same citizens that were killed, this 14,000, these were the citizens that voted 90% to join Russia versus a 10% against Russia. All right. And then Putin said no, even though 90% of these ethnic Russians in Ukraine and Baz and Lugansk voted 90%, yes, we want to join Russia. Putin said no. Putin said, we don't want you. We want to sign a treaty that stops the government from killing you and guarantees NATO won't come into Ukraine. That treaty was called the Minsk Accords. France agreed. Germany agreed. England agreed. And Russia agreed. But guess who didn't agree? The United States. So here comes Zelensky. He pops in out of nowhere, 2019. This comedian, go-go dancer has never, say what you want about Trump. Trump at least ran multiple businesses. He had some bankruptcies, but a lot of businesses do. Out of 500 something businesses he had plenty of he had a few bankruptcies. This guy, Zelensky, is an actor and comedian, no political experience. This is a guy, Zelensky, not only no political experience, who dodged his own country's military draft 3 times. You can look this up. Jimmy Dore did a great breakdown on this. Zelensky dodged his own country's military draft 3 times. That should already speak volumes to his character. All right, so not even an entrepreneur, not even a business owner. All right, he's literally just a clown of entertainment. However, he gets platformed, becomes his puppet. He runs in 2019 and wins in a landslide, and I put that in air quotes, landslide of 70.
Let me contextualize just that part, because everything you said is.
Yeah, I got a little more to share, but yeah, go ahead. You go ahead.
everything you said is accurate. At least, I don't have anything that I can contribute to it to completely derail anything besides a couple pronunciation things.
Oh yeah.
Zelensky ran on a platform of unification with the ethnic Russian people because he's from Eastern Ukraine. He ran on a platform of unification. That is why he won. He gained massive support.
Oh, I'm gonna get to that
because he ran on a platform of unification between ethnically Russian people and the Western Ukrainian population, who are not ethnically Russian.
Yep. Oh yeah. And I was about to say too. Once again, he won this 70% landslide. All right. Why? Because like you said, conspiracy brother, he promised to sign the Minsk Accords. He wanted unity, peace, bring everybody together. But guess what? The guy gets in office, he pivots. He doesn't sign the Minsk Accords because I think it was the lady Victoria Nuland. Victoria Nuland, who was part of like the ultra nationalists within his own country. They came to him and they threatened Zelensky. They told him we're gonna kill you if you sign these Minsk Accords. You know, you promised.
Actually, Victoria Nuland is a neoconservative who served in multiple presidential administrations.
All right, so she was a Ukrainian neocon.
United States.
Oh, United States. Oh, okay.
She served under the Bush administration, I think the Obama administration. Only administration of those that she didn't serve in was Trump's, and she's back in the Biden administration.
Oh no,
she's currently the undersecretary. He was currently the Undersecretary of State, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. But, so Victoria Nuland. So she was the puppet master in this case, U.S. neocon, and basically, like you said, threatened him and said, "We'll kill you if you sign these Minsk Accords." So Zelensky, now the new president of Ukraine, the Russians say, "Okay, we're not going to let Ukraine, this new pro-U.S. government that the U.S. installed, we're not going to let them come into I think it's called Vladivostok in Crimea." And take the only part, or really, I think the only port they had for like 340 years is like a big port of authority in Crimea in Vladivostok. So what Russia decided to do, Russia forces go into Crimea without killing one person because the Crimeans welcomed them. Then Russia said, you know what? All right, let's sign this peace treaty. They prosper again. Let's sign this Minsk Accords. And this was in March 2022, where they tried to do it again. And guess what? It was already sabotaged once. All right. And basically, like I said, if Zelensky signed it, the Russians' initials, and Putin would have started withdrawing all of his troops from Ukraine if he had signed it. But what happens? Joe Biden sends then UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson over to Ukraine and tells Zelensky to tear up the agreement. Then that led to Putin, who had no choice after that. He came back to the table in good faith for this peace agreement, and they once again sabotaged it. So once again, that led to Putin to have no choice but to go in and invade. And that led us to the Russia invasion of March 2022, where everybody thinks the story started, but they don't know none of the shit I just mentioned before. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there for those y'all still not on the same page. You know,
and I want to say this too to add some context.
Mm-hmm.
So Russia is not going to allow Ukraine in March of 22, while the fighting had only begun in February. By March, that March, they were having a peace deal drawn up, as you stated, with the president of Turkey, what's his name? Recep Tayyip Erdogan. And I want to say the prime minister of Israel at the time, it was I forget his name. Starts with an N. Let me see. Naftali Bennett is his name. And they negotiated a peace plan, right? Russia was going to be willing to withdraw troops so long as Ukraine stopped bombing eastern Ukraine cities, or they call them oblasts, Donetsk and Lugansk. Those two, like calling them states or provinces, had formed their own countries: the Donetsk People's Republic and Lugansk People's Republic. Right? You stop bombing them, you let them be semi-autonomous regions, and we'll withdraw troops, because Russia was only getting involved because, like you said, those were ethnically Russian people. They still have a connection to Russia, the Russian history, the Russian shared history, and so they were being bombed. Mm-hmm. As you said, Boris Johnson comes over. Hey, no, we got your back. Don't worry about it.
Tear that shit up.
And so Zelensky withdraws. They tear that agreement up. And this is why he said, I know the U.S. won't betray me or betray it. You put words of confidence, you put confidence in the words of the United States and its apparatchiks. That's why you're going to die. Because you believe this. The history of U.S. interaction with foreign governments and dictators and stuff is very easy to come and find, especially if you're a president of a country. And if you decided that you would put your faith in the United States and the UK, that's your fault. But that's what happened. And so now Russia is not about to allow you. And Angela Merkel, I want to say it was about 6 months ago, maybe a year ago. Angela Merkel, who was the chancellor of Germany, and Francois Hollande, who was the president of France, who were signatories of the Minsk Agreement, Minsk I and Minsk II, admitted that the only reason they even did the Minsk Accords was to give Ukraine a chance to build up weaponry and soldiers. They had no sincere intentions of negotiating a peace deal. They only did that so that Russia would back off and they could build up weapons and troops. And so Russia's not about to fall for that again. Putin has done a speech about it just recently. And a lady interviewed him on a show, and or it might have been from the audience, because he's been president or prime minister, because in Russia you can have two consecutive terms as president or prime minister, and they're 11-year. I believe it's 11 years that you have to take a gap in between. So you can be president consecutively 2 years, and then you have to take an 11-year step down, and then you can run again. So what Putin does is, when he's the president, he's the president. And then after he has to do his little hiatus from being president, then he goes and runs and he becomes the prime minister. And so I joke that whatever office Putin holds in Russia is the highest level of government at that time. So if he's the president, then the president is the most important. If he's the prime minister, then the prime minister is the most important, because I believe he was elected in 1999. So he's been their president or prime minister since 1999, so 24 years. And the expectation is he's going to win again. But they asked him at an interview, what would you tell your younger self as it pertains to your dealings with the West? And he said he would tell his younger self, because he's like 76 now, don't be so trusting, because when he first became the president, he really believed that he could sincerely have good relationships with the West. He wanted to let Russia join NATO. NATO was created to really destroy the Soviet Union. And so the Soviet Union fell in 91 or 92 or 93. And when he became president, he said, hey, can I join NATO? Can Russia join NATO, since it's not an anti-Russian organization? And they said no. And he said, I should have understood from that moment what really was the game, because he still was operating from a position of forthrightness, right? And everybody goes through something, and you learn from it. You learn from your mistakes. Yeah. And so, but that was the rundown as I said, I just wanted to add that context to what you were talking about. So,
all right, I appreciate it. And everybody, once again, we about 45 minutes in. We are the Uncomfy Truths podcast. I'm your host, Conservative Brother, here with Conspiracy Brother. We stream live bi-weekly on Fridays on YouTube and Rumble. And definitely tune in, tap in with the Kings. And we're gonna get over to our next article. We're gonna keep things moving. All right, next we have here Judge. Oh Lord, I got ads everywhere. Golly, can't read. All righty. I think it's a paywall. Okay, I'll find it on another one. All right, we'll go to this one first. All right, for Business Insider, Senator announces staffer no longer works for him following emergence of X-rated video showing sex in famous Congress hearing room. I know everybody heard about this. It was viral, been all over Twitter this past week. A video appears to show a Senate staffer having sex with another man in the hearing room. Aiden Mays Zakrowski, the aide identified as being in the video, no longer works for the office of Senator Ben Cardin. Mays, I'm not going to pronounce that last name, wrote on social media that he had been attacked for who I love to pursue a political agenda. Talk about gaslighting. All right, here we go. The office of Senator Ben Cardin of Maryland has announced that a staffer accused of filming himself having sex in a congressional hearing room no longer works for the senator. The video published by the Daily Caller on Friday showed what it described as a congressional staffer having sex with an unknown man. The staffer was later identified by conservative media as Aiden Mays Zakrowski, 24, an aide for Democratic Senator Ben Cardin. Cardin office told Politico Aiden Mays Zakrowski is no longer employed by the U.S. Senate. Capitol Police told CNN they could not confirm details about the video, but are aware of that they are looking into this. In a post on LinkedIn, Mays Krapowski appeared to address the situation without mentioning the video. And keep with our impression theme, conservative conspiracy brother. I'm going to go ahead and do an impression of what I assume they will sound like when saying this. You ready? You ready, conspiracy brother? I'm about to do this impression.
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. This has been a difficult time for me as I have been attacked for who I love to pursue a political agenda. While some of my actions in the past have shown poor judgment, I love my job and would never disrespect my workplace. Oh my God. I would never disrespect my workplace. Any attempts to characterize my actions otherwise are fabricated, and I will be exploring what legal options are available to me in these matters, he said. So, really quick, conspiracy brother, I got to go over this because this is the same Democrat gaslighting attempts that we see over and over again, like the mental gymnastics, the no accountability, just not even mentioning it. And I think Dave Smith, he does a great job. Like he did a great analogy, especially on like Merrick Garland, that piece of crap, Merrick Garland. Basically, when he had the hearing a few months ago, when they were kind of grilling him, and he was like, "This is ridiculous. Any sort of criticisms on me is a slap in the face to this U.S. democracy and what the DOJ does and blah blah blah." And it's kind of the equivalent to like Fauci being like, "Well, frankly, attacks against me are attacks on science." And then Dave Smith did a great analogy on like, if you go home 3 a.m. and your wife shows up there and is like, "Where were you at? You're cheating on me, aren't you?" You wouldn't go, "I am a loving husband with over 20 years in this marriage." Any sort of criticism and any sort of accusations is just completely insulting to the intelligence of this marriage. You wouldn't do that. You would say, "No, I was with Ray Ray. We was watching the game. And then we, he got a little depressed. We were talking a little bit, and then we went ahead and went to Joe's house. You don't just come up with this whole holier than thou. How dare you even say these things? You get what I'm saying, conspiracy brother? And you see this over and over again, this gaslighting with the Democrats at least. The Republicans do it.
And see,
that's
this is an interesting thing too.
Yeah,
this is an interesting thing too. This is something that I heard from on Twitter years ago. A gay guy actually said it.
Yeah.
But like they always act like all gay relationships is just love. Oh, love is love. Like every straight relationship ain't love. Sometimes straight people just be with each other because they want to have sex. That's the same with gay people. So like you're saying, this is just gaslighting BS. Because what are you talking about? Oh, I'm being attacked for who I love. Bro, you're being attacked because you had sex in a Senate office.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you're if you had sex in a bedroom, this wouldn't be a story. Because nobody would know. If you had sex in a hotel, maybe even in a coat closet, but you had sex in a Senate office, a hearing room, and then recorded it and posted it online.
It's just unbelievable. And because this once again goes back to kind of just playing the homophobia card. Like any criticism is that protected class shield of identity politics. Where how can you dare say that? Like, no, because you did it's the behavior. We're not like attacking who you are as a person.
My wife, if I had sex with my wife in an empty courtroom, should I say that I'm being persecuted if it costs me my job? You know what I'm saying? What are you talking about? It isn't a political agenda to mischaracterize you. If anything, what this does is it devalues anything that the LGBT community can say about decency, right? Because it shows a lack of respect and decorum. You had a transgender person come to the White House and flash their breasts while the president was speaking. Then you had the other transgender person or cross-dresser or whatever who worked in the White House who was stealing clothes from luggage. So what you see, whether it's true or not, whether it's representative of their demographic as a whole, you see, because we're not even talking about all the drag queen shit.
Right.
Pardon me, Dad. Pardon me. But what you see is that these people from this community are showing a lack of respect and decorum for the sanctity or for the power or for the image of what these offices, these rooms, these positions mean, right? For American people. We fund this stuff. As we talked about in the last story, we fund this stuff. We're responsible for paying taxes that, at least as we have been told, fund all this stuff. And so it's disrespectful to us and those of us who don't support this behavior. If this was a straight couple, we would not support this behavior. It's unacceptable behavior. But this is the spin that you see. It happens from both sides. It just happens to be a Democratic employee today. But they do this kind of thing. You should not be doing this. You shouldn't be caught doing something like this and say anything other than I apologize for my actions. I need to do some self-reflection and some soul searching and figure out who I want to be and the image I'm trying to project out into the world. That's what you should say. You shouldn't be saying I'm being attacked for who I love.
Well, who's plugging you?
Right. That's unacceptable.
Yeah.
That is completely unacceptable.
Gaslight more and more. And just continue the Business Insider article. And once again, George Santos, obviously, he recently got ousted from the Congress, and you know, on a lot of different shady stuff. But once again, like here, what he's saying right here is pretty base. Recently ousted former Congressman George Santos, who was also gay, weighed in on the subject in a post on X. Having sex in a United States government building and filming it is the reason you got heat, he wrote. You being gay and having gay sex, nobody gives a rat ass. All right, so he's keeping it 100. He can throw that. He can easily throw that protected class identity card. Oh, how can you come after our community? He kept it a buck. All right. So at least respect to Santos. Obviously, he's got a lot of other shady stuff, and he shouldn't be lecturing anybody on ethics. But he's based in this assessment. Business Insider had not independently verified the video. Oh, trust me, everybody verified the video. That thing was everywhere. I had to get off my news feed for a while. Things was popping up. All right. BI has contacted Capitol Police, Senator Ben Cardin, and Aiden Mays Sorosky for comment. The room where the video was filmed has borne witness to several notable moments in history, including the former FBI Director James Comey's testimony about Donald Trump in 2016 and the 9/11 hearings. All right, nice and short article. But yeah, man, it's just, I don't know what else we need to say about this. I like to kind of move on. It's been kind of done to death. But yeah, just once again, this double standard that I've talked about before a lot in the group chat on how basically Democrats can kind of just they can kind of frolic and gallivant over stuff that, Republicans just do an eighth of. They getting landmined on, and the Dems are good. They're really good at twisting it, making themselves into the victim and doing all that stuff. But like you mentioned, it's just sad because there's bad apples in every group, and what this is doing, and not only disrespecting one of our municipal buildings and what it means for, like, obviously our institutions, but it's once again going to show the bad behavior of these bad apples. And even on the left side, the Democrat side, they refuse to take accountability. They refuse to say, well, there's some of them that are coming out obviously now, but as a whole, the Dem cult still likes to stick together. They'll defend this senator, they'll defend this Senate staffer the same way they'll defend the Biden energy guy that was still in the luggage, the trans woman that came and flashed at the White House, and so on and so forth. Instead of condemning the behavior and being like, hey, that's not all of us, condemning the behavior and being like, hey, it's not all of us. So anything else you wanted to add, Conspiracy Brothers, so we can move on?
I think you summed it up really well and really explained what the problem was. But yeah, I'll just say that this over political, like, this is why I don't even watch ESPN, because you cannot even watch sports media without somebody trying to give you some BS spin about what you can clearly see with your eyes. George Santos sums it up. If you were in a bedroom, if you were in a motel, if you were anywhere else in private,
that's you. Do you? Hey,
this would be a non-issue.
Live and let live.
But because you have decided to do this in a public place, because a Senate office is most certainly a public place, and then record it and put it online, no sympathy. You're not a victim.
You're not. Cut it out.
So that's
right.
my,
All right, yeah, that's in the bag. All right, next subject. Judge orders release of names of more than 150 people mentioned in these pop ads. Mentioned in Jeffrey Epstein's lawsuit documents. And once again, Conspiracy Brother, you're up. It's your article turn. So would you like to go ahead and read this for me, and I'll scroll for you, then we can break it down.
Okay. So it says the names include the names include those of sex abuse victims, litigation witnesses, Epstein's employees, and even some people with only passing connections to the scandal. I think even Chris Tucker had been on his plane like twice, man.
Look at not my boy Chris. Look at that face.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right.
Hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband because they're ripping everybody out here. So December 20th, 2023, 6:36 a.m. from the Associated Press. A federal judge has ordered the public disclosure of the identities of more than 150 people mentioned in a mountain of court documents related to the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein, saying that most of the names were already public and that many had not objected to the release. The people whose names are to be disclosed, including a sex abuse victims, litigation witnesses, Epstein's employees, and even some people with only a passing connection to the scandal, have until January 1st to appeal the order signed Monday by Judge Loretta A. Preska. For several years, Preska has reviewed documents sought by the Miami Herald from a civil case filed by one of Epstein's victims that eventually was settled. Many of the records related to the lawsuit were publicly released in past years. But on Monday, the judge made the determination. She made determinations about some portions of the records that were initially withheld on potential privacy grounds, and what can be made public about certain people mentioned in their records. In many instances, she noted that individuals had given media interviews or that their names had previously emerged publicly in various ways, including a trial 2 years ago of Epstein's associate and former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, whose father was in the Mossad. Preska concluded, there's also rumor that Epstein is in the Mossad, and, Preska concluded that some portions of the records should remain confidential, including those identifying people who were children when they were sexually abused by Epstein and had tried to maintain their privacy. The Epstein case has spawned countless conspiracy theories about the possible involvement of rich and powerful people in sex trafficking. It's not a conspiracy. If you look at the flight logs, I think Bill Gates was on his plane like 20 times.
Oh, it's a conspiracy. It's a real conspiracy. It's just not a conspiracy theory as they try and smear.
Well, yeah. Bill Clinton has been on his plane over 20 times. Hillary Clinton was on his plane twice. Like, you have all these. Prince Andrew was credibly accused of raping an underage person, an underage woman. Okay. Mm-hmm. So let's not pretend like this is some kind of conspiracy theory. Okay.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. The lengths the media will go to try to, hey, there's nothing to see here, some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. I think even, what's his name? Alan Dershowitz might have even been on this plane.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
And the plane was called the Lolita Express.
And, bro, did you see the Kim Iverson when Kim Iverson had him on and she pulled the rug from under him? Like, I'm going to ask you this question. He was like, well, my sister never told me about asking anything about Epstein, but she went for it. I commend Kim Iverson.
You have to.
Yeah, she had to go. That's what real investigative, hard-hitting journalism is. They don't just simp and just propagate for the establishment. They come in there, yeah, they're going to ask the questions. So she went in on him on that, and he didn't want to get into it. He was like, it's my last time on the show. But, yeah, she pressed him on that. Yep.
So it says the 3 criminal cases brought by federal and state authorities, however, have focused on allegations about sexual abuse by Epstein himself and Maxwell. Epstein died by suicide, or so they claim, in August 2019 in a federal lockup in Manhattan as he awaited trial on sex trafficking charges. And now, it could be believable if the details surrounding his passing were not so comical.
Right.
The guards who were supposed to be on duty were asleep. The cameras that were supposed to be focused on his cell were off. The guards who do the rounds didn't do their round. Like, it was all kind of crazy, nutty stuff that happened. Other inmates claimed to hear a struggle in the cell. So, I'm a conspiracy theorist, but y'all talking about he killed himself. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Maxwell, 61, is serving a 20-year prison sentence after she was convicted in December 2021 of helping Epstein recruit and sexually abuse underage girls. And I believe that is it.
I'm loving these short articles. I'm getting, you know. I know last time every link was like 8 pages long. So we're getting good.
Yeah.
We're getting lucky on these little short but sweet, you know, articles. But yeah, I would just say, what is it like? I gotta. I'm gonna just say this because we already talked a lot about Epstein and the history. I'm gonna make a little prediction. All right, we already got the Obama film, you know, that we're gonna talk about. Leave the world behind or whatever coming out. What they call predictive programming on a grid down scenario. I think the establishment's gonna try everything they can. I feel like there may be a case that they're gonna appeal it, push it back, appeal it. But it could be anything from a damn near they might break out with the next COVID grid down scenario. There's gonna be some sort of 2024 surprise or something that gets in the way of this release. They're either gonna find something distracting enough to push it back, or if they end up releasing the names, they're gonna create some type of crisis to get to because those names aren't gonna come out. And if they do come out, you're gonna see conspiracy brother. It's gonna be like, oh, Bill Clinton's housekeeper, oh, Rob Reiner's gardener, oh, the Secret Service people, the pilot or flight a traffic controller or the island port dock worker. It's gonna be people. They're gonna start releasing like the housekeeper, nanny. And once again, that can obviously hint that it was maybe that high profile person. But I feel like they're gonna find a way to incriminate really the small fish within the circle of those celebrities, but not the actual celebrity. All right. So
Yeah,
worst case,
which is
a crisis. Best second case, they're gonna create these little nothing burgers of these nobodies around the real people who are on the log. That's my prediction.
which is which is going to do nothing but fuel the speculation that there's something nefarious going on, because you can look at the flight logs. Bill Gates admitted to being on a plane multiple times. I think his ex-wife even said that was one of the reasons why she wanted a divorce. I'm not sure. I think it might be something tax related that actually is the reason they divorced. But what do I know?
That money. She wanted that half money. Well,
Right.
I mean,
That's
I'm
what I
sure in
think.
there she was cheating too, but
Yeah, well, they do all kind of weird stuff, honestly.
right.
They stay married because they're married, but they do a lot of weird stuff.
It's for mutual business interests, just like Will and Jada.
Right.
And we could,
Right.
yeah, just like Will and Jada. But anyway, you were saying.
And so I that picture, there's a picture of Bill Clinton wearing a blue dress. I think the dress is supposed to be the dress that Monica Lewinsky wore. That.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
And he's like sitting in a chair. It's the creepiest picture you ever seen.
Yeah.
But it's Bill Clinton in a dress, and Epstein had it. It's a huge painting.
Yeah.
It's huge. And it's so weird to have, knowing that Bill Clinton may have seen it because they interacted with each other so much. It's the weirdest thing in the world. These people have no morals, right? There's nothing off limits to them. They'll do whatever they can, and they can do a lot because of the amount of money and influence they have. Hide your kids. Hide your wife. And hide your husband, as Antonio Dotson said. But honestly, protect your children. This is why they're trying to attack the family at every turn, to undermine the family unit, and to undermine your children. Whatever you teach them at home with these drag shows and this LGBT stuff in your kids' TV programming. This is why they're doing it. Right? These maps people, they're pedophiles.
Yeah.
Right. They want to have all these euphemisms for evil, nefarious crap so that you don't know what it really is all about. Right? If they use sneaky language, then you won't be able to understand what they're talking about. You know what a map is. You know what maps are. So if somebody says, "Oh, I'm a map," you'll think, "Oh, you crazy," but you won't think, "Oh, you a pedophile."
Right. Or I'm an attracted person.
And I'd much rather be crazy than be a pedophile. Right? On the scale of things, I'd rather have schizophrenia than be a pedophile.
I might rather be a serial killer than a pedophile, but
oh yeah, easily.
Yeah.
Easily.
All right. So we'll just have to see. All right. So keeping things moving forward. Let's see if we can try and get through a few more of these articles, especially some we didn't get through last week. All right. So, and I kind of touched on this earlier. This comes from the New York Post. Leave the world behind. All right. Why leave the world behind? Viewers think Obamas are sending a warning with movie. All right. So this comes from the New York Post. Warning: spoilers below. Do you care about spoilers, conspiracy brother? I don't.
No, I don't really see movies frequently, and I didn't expect to see this movie. So no, I don't mind.
I might plan to watch this eventually, just out of curiosity, but I'm not tempted to because I'm just Obamas aren't really like my cup of tea as far as being warmongers and all. Um, But hold on. All right. So the movie Leave the World Behind is fiction, but many viewers are reading more into it. The Netflix apocalyptic thriller, which came out November 22nd, stars Julia Roberts, Ethan Hawke, Mahershala Ali, and Kevin Bacon. Not a bad cast. The plot follows a family on vacation at a rental house on Long Island who get interrupted by strangers showing up amid a mysterious blackout and technology glitches. Both families work together to decide how to survive as technology such as phones and televisions break down, airplanes start crashing. In the movie, the characters have various theories of what's causing these unsettling events. That is the work of hackers, that's a government conspiracy. I'll take that one in the middle. That the U.S. is at war with rogue
Correct.
forces using radiological weapons to turn people against each other. It can be part of that too. It's based on the 2020 novel by Ruben Alam and directed, written, and produced by Mr. Robot creator Sam Esmail. It's also the first feature film from High Ground, the production company founded by former U.S. President Barack Obama and Michelle Obama in 2018. Their involvement is prompting conspiracy theories. And I got to call out this. I know this High Ground is kind of a thing where even during their presidency, even back when they were president, I was kind of a little more blue pilled, asleep into kind of what the Obamas were doing. Now they were pretty much in line with all the other presidents as far as war crimes. And I remember Michelle Obama, she would always give this quote, like any sort of criticism, any sort of scandals, that a lot of it turned out to be true. They'll say, well, when they go low, we go high. We take the high ground. And that sort of has been just this calling card of like, well, we are superior. You even see like these memes from a lot of the left wingers, like it'll just show the Obamas like on an inauguration and at the inauguration ball, like, you know, no scandals, no any sort of indecency, just 8 years of class. And like they have no idea of just all the stuff the Obamas were involved in. But of course, when you feed off of CNN, MSNBC all day, you don't know that. All right. Anyway, their involvement is prompting conspiracy theories. It is happening. They even told us the countries, come on now, we're at the scramble, the enemy stage. See uh, Palestine versus Israel, Russia versus Ukraine, Liz Cheney versus GOP, Antifa versus fascists, Second Civil War. It's a big list. One viewer posted on X. So this guy's pretty based. They're just kind of letting us know, I think, through what's called projection, or it's kind of the term sort of like with the witch cooking, kind of like we tell you what we're about to do to you. So this film is a sign of what we're going to do to you, conspiracy brother. But the fact that you brushed it off as conspiracy or that it's just a movie, then hey, you're responsible for your death. All right, because we told you what we're going to do to you. All right, other viewers interpret the movie as not being so fictional. One viewer wrote, "Have y'all watched Leave the World Behind? I feel so uneasy because this can easily happen tomorrow." Forget tomorrow. Pretty much we're on step 2. Step 3 is coming, and the Obamas are mocking all of us who don't live in the Hamptons as they warn us what's coming. Facts. Conspiracy brother, anything you want to hop in on this?
Yeah, so well, you said they would always talk about no scandals, and that's funny because they would always say, "Oh, the only scandal they had was the tan suit thing."
Right.
But like
right.
Barack Obama won the Nobel Peace Prize, and he dropped so many bombs that the U.S. government ran out of bombs, and I'm not exaggerating. He dropped so many bombs the last year of his presidency. The U.S. government ran out of bombs. The reason that isn't a scandal is because nobody talked about it in the media like it was
The
a
media
scandal.
covered him from they covered Obama from day one because it was the Democrats way back into the White House, identity politics, protect this man at all costs. Then they got a taste for blood for the warmongering. And yeah, the media has been on his side, as far as Democrats. Yes, of course people never heard about it.
Well, see, even the Republicans, they're on his side too, because
Right.
Fox News, those pundits would say, "Oh, he's a communist. He's some kind of Marxist. He's a Muslim or whatever," right? But when he was bombing so many people that the U.S. ran out of bombs, they didn't say, "Hey, you bombed so many people, we ran out of bombs." They didn't say, "Hey, you destroyed Libya." They didn't say, "Hey, you killed a U.S. citizen with a drone," which is unconstitutional. Hey, you continued the Patriot Act. Hey, you see what I'm saying? Because they're all in it together. Both sides of the aisle are in it together.
The Uniparty.
Right. And so, just like I said, Victoria Nuland in our previous segment worked in the Obama administration, the Bush administration, and the Biden administration. You find these slimy bastards. I think that should be okay, Dad, right? These slimy bastards are able to move throughout the political system completely unabated. And a lot of them, you don't know their names. They don't have term limits. They don't have restrictions about how long they can work. And so they stay forever in place. And that's the deep state, or as other people call it, the permanent state. Because these people don't get voted out.
Mm-hmm.
They don't run. They're not publicly known. You don't know who they are, but what they do has a negative effect on not only people in a global context, but even us at home.
Great point. All right, so continuing on, the movie "Leave the World Behind" is definitely a message of what's happening, what's to come. Is very much in line with what we've been saying for years. Stock up on those perishables and water. Also, the fact that Obama's our exec producers is making my dog ears go up. Another viewer said, talking to and that's facts. Talking and that's the thing. Like we're establishing, they're not like, oh, Obama are these very wise people that just can. They're our best and brightest, and they know what's coming. Like no, they're telling you what they're going to do. That's the distinction. Let's keep in mind they're telling you they're part of the deep state agenda that's telling you what they're going to do. All right, a demonic retribution, as they call it. Talking to Vanity Fair about working with former President Obama, Esmail, the director of the film, said, President Obama, having the experience he does have, was able to ground me a little bit on how things might unfold in reality. He continued. He had a lot of notes about the characters and the empathy we would have for them. I have to say, he is a big movie lover, and he wasn't just giving notes about things that were from his background. He was giving notes as a fan of the book, and he wanted to really see a good film. Leave the World Behind is a very strange film for a former president to have producing credit on. I'll say that. That's probably the best tweet right there. All right. Roberts 56, meanwhile, gave her own take on the interview at CBS. Sam Esmail, the director, calls it a disaster movie. Ethan Hawke calls it a thriller. It's both of those things. But to me, it's a story about this family, this husband and wife, who are kind of opposites. He's a quieter, more laid back, and he's this prickly workaholic. He said earlier this month. There's so much to unpack. When you're talking about this movie she went on, there's just so many different ideas to talk about. There's no so much fragility in the world to talk about. There's so much that really is in our capable hands that we're not being truly responsible with. Blah blah blah. So, what do you think, conspiracy brother, about this Bird Box 2? That's gonna warn us that we're gonna kill you all, basically. We're saying it without saying it, basically.
And see, I still can't really see. I didn't see Bird Box either.
Well,
I don't understand what any of this is about. But just like with some science fiction, you have situations where it's like right in front of you. They're telling you what they're going to do. Soylent Green comes to mind. Total Recall. Those types of movies where they kind of give away the game.
Yep.
And I'm sure that to some degree that message is in here.
Yep.
What their plans are for how they want to eradicate us all.
Oh yeah.
But it's the Obamas are nothing more than self-serving, self-interested people who want to be rich off the backs of his career as president. That's it. You have these people who are more interested in they're more interested in that kind of thing, amassing wealth, than they care about doing the right thing for the country. And it is unfortunate, but that is where we are. And I remember Obama talked about how he was going to start a foundation like the Clintons as a joke.
Oh,
when Hillary was running, when he would do like surrogate, he would be her surrogate. He would do events for her. He would talk about how he's going to do a foundation like the Clinton Foundation. And I mean, we could be happy and say it's great that he didn't, and at least theoretically, this requires more talent or skill because you don't know if what he's doing will be successful. But what he's done is he's focused on a career in which he could enrich himself through the connections and the name that he built. And, we suffer. We suffer as a people. We suffer. When Trump had businesses as a president, they made it seem like the craziest thing in the world.
right.
But as long as you do things their way, they'll always find a way to make an excuse for what you've decided to do. So
Big facts. Big facts. All right, moving on. Donor allegedly offered $20 million to recruit a Tlaib primary challenger. This is from a few weeks ago. We weren't able to cover it on last show a couple weeks back. The lucrative proposal to Democratic Michigan Senate candidate Hill Harper arrived on October 16th, according to the source with direct knowledge, and got rejected. This comes from Politico. But yeah, go ahead, Conspiracy Brothers, your turn on this article read, but you can feel free to give any context as we go through this one.
Okay, so from Politico by Ursula Perano and Nicholas Wu. So you need two people to write this because clearly we might just need to refresh it.
What article? Oh, okay. Oh yeah, this was from like 3 weeks ago. Yeah. All right, cool.
So,
all right, go right ahead.
A Michigan businessman called Democratic Senate candidate Hill Harper to offer $20 million in campaign contributions if he agreed to drop out and instead mount a primary challenge to Rep. Rashida Tlaib, according to a source with direct knowledge of the call. I wonder if it's like Dan Gilbert or something.
Who knows?
The source added that Harper declined the alleged October 16th offer from donor Lyndon Nelson,
Let's
I
see.
thought that said Liam Neeson. I'm like, what the hell?
Lyndon Nelson, which would have split the campaign money between $10 million in bundled contributions directly to Harper's campaign and $10 million in independent expenditures. Harper declined to comment on the record about the alleged call from Nelson, a Michigan entrepreneur and past donor to candidates in both parties. But he recounted the call in the same terms as the source in a post on X after the story's publication. But the episode illustrates the intensity of the blowback toward Tlaib, the only Palestinian American in Congress. In response to her outspoken criticism of the Israeli government since its war with Hamas began, more than 20 Democrats joined Republicans in voting to censure Tlaib. Let's see. And earlier this month, after she invoked a pro-Palestinian slogan that's widely seen as calling for the eradication of Israel, and pro-Israel Democrats are still searching for a candidate to primary. So here's how censorship works in America, the land of the free. Censorship is so heavy in the land of the free, they didn't even post a quote of what she said.
Yeah.
The phrase that she used in the House of Congress is not being quoted in this article.
Mm-hmm.
That's how heavy the censorship works. But I believe the phrase is from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the message. Well,
Yep.
Politico reached Nelson briefly to seek comment on the alleged call to Harper, but he ended the call after a few seconds and did not respond to subsequent calls, texts, and emails seeking comment. Three of Tlaib's fellow progressive critics of Israel government policy, Rep. Summer Lee, Democrat of Pennsylvania, she's got her own issues.
Yeah.
Corey Bush, Democrat of Missouri, got her own issues too.
Yeah. Oh, a lot of issues.
Ilhan Omar,
Got hella
Minnesota, yes, are facing their own Democratic challengers who are touting their more pro-Israel rhetoric and voting records. Harper, an actor and business owner, has also positioned himself as a progressive in the primary to succeed retiring Senator Debbie Stabenow. Progressive doesn't mean anything. It absolutely means nothing. But he struggled to gain traction as Senate Rep. Elissa Slotkin leads in polling and fundraising. Now, she's a CIA agent.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know what capacity she worked in at the CIA, but she worked for the CIA. I don't trust her, and I wouldn't vote for her. I wouldn't vote for her if she was running against Satan himself.
Yeah, I would vote Harper in a heartbeat over her. Yeah.
Harper also might not have proven the most ideal recruit to challenge Tlaib with a more pro-Israeli government approach. Harper called for humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza, largely echoing the ceasefire support from a few dozen congressional Democrat progressives. He did so on November 10th, well after the alleged call from Nelson. Quote, the answers to ensure long-term peace and security for Israelis and Palestinians are neither simple nor pain-free, but one truth stands firm. Violence against defenseless children trapped and frightened is abhorrent, regardless of who is behind it. End quote. Harper wrote in a statement calling for the ceasefire early this month. In addition, Harper's Detroit residence is located in Rep. Shri Tanadar's district, not in Tlaib's. She has represented her district, which includes Dearborn and its large Arab American population, since 2019. Despite facing multiple past Democratic challenges, she's handily won her primary election since then. And again, I've said before, American citizens should be able to criticize whoever they want, especially foreign countries.
Yeah.
And so this idea that you want to punish a U.S. member of Congress because they say something you don't like about a foreign country that you may have a connection to is Orwellian.
Yeah. That's
You
base.
know, that control, that level of control is Orwellian.
Mm-hmm.
Is this more? Okay.
Yeah.
A Tlaib spokesperson declined to comment on the alleged Nelson Harper call. Tlaib has called for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza, a position that's slowly amassing more Democratic support as casualties increase uh, from the Israel Hamas war. As the Democratic Party confronts deep divisions over Israel that were exacerbated by the U.S. allies' military response to Hamas, progressive incumbents are seeking help from party leaders to quell pro Israel Democrats' interest in primary challenges to lawmakers deemed insufficiently supportive of the war. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has already heeded that call by endorsing Omar's reelection.
Hmm.
And one thing, another thing I want to say, Jimmy Dore always says this: if you want to know who controls you, find out who you can't criticize.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Those are the people that you are being controlled by. So you can't control who in this modern era. You can't control. You can't criticize the LGBT, especially the T. You can't. You cannot criticize members of the Jewish community, right? And you, I mean, that's not the only group, but those two really stick out, and it gives you a little insight about why things are the way they are. Nelson has also previously donated to a group seeking to unseat Tlaib and has a history of involvement with American Israel Public Affairs Committee, which has railed against her. He has donated to other Michigan Democratic candidates over the years, including Rep. Haley Stevens this cycle and 11 in previous cycles, according to FEC records, as well as former Rep. Mike Bishop. I think Mike Bishop lost to Alyssa Slotkin or Haley Stevens. Mm-hmm. That was the seat that one of them took. AIPAC spokesperson Marshall Whitman said the group was, quote, absolutely not involved in any way in this matter. Also, our records indicate that this individual has not contributed to AIPAC in over a decade, end quote. It is not clear if the alleged donation offer would have violated any campaign finance laws had Harper accepted it. Saurav Ghosh, the director for federal reform at the Nonpartisan Campaign Legal Center, said that any potential coordination between a candidate and a donor floating that amount of financing would be illegal. Quote, it would be illegal for a wealthy donor and a person planning to run for office to essentially coordinate and line up $20 million in financing to support that person's candidacy. This would raise serious corruption concerns about the candidate being wholly within that one donor's pocket, end quote, said Ghosh. Give me a break.
Are almost there. Almost done.
Give me a break. This suddenly brings up ethical considerations. When you know for a fact that the AIPAC Israel lobby, as shown by the book from Professor John Mearsheimer, and I forget the co-author, went into great detail about it. But a promise to make future donation boosting the candidate could count as a contribution under campaign finance laws and could thus qualify as an excessive contribution. Ghosh added, as the promised money would still end up directly benefiting the candidate, even if it were eroded through an outside group like a super PAC. Nelson did not respond to a subsequent request for comment on the potential illegality of the alleged offer.
Shocking.
Whoever you can't criticize is who controls
Whoever you can't criticize is who controls you.
Yeah, and you know what? This is just very interesting because once again, like hearing about Hill Harper's kind of run, I was kind of caught, following it when I can. I was always cautiously optimistic, about him. I didn't know he was a Detroit resident, as long as he was. But at the same time, seeing this once again just goes to show like a lot of the classic Democrat, Republican, uniparty, true colors, if you will. Um, Also, too, with Rashid Tlaib, I'm kind of split on her. I know somebody in the group chat mentioned some work she was doing on the local neighborhood work level, some good neighborhood concessions. Basically, she was able to lobby and get, which I do respect. At the same time, I wish she was a little bit more critical of the. Once again, it's okay. She's pro-Palestinian. It's just a matter of fact that there are like some legit anti-Semitic, like far left, like let's actually kill the Jews, gas the Jews. They've been saying that in protests in Boston and in Melbourne, Australia. There's been Jewish kids attacked on college campuses. I'm not here to be like the sort of like, the Jew Sambo, all right. But at the same time, like just how I value a Palestinian baby's life, I value Israeli life or African babies the same way. So I wish she was along with other uh, politicians that are pro-Palestinian. I wish they would just kind of call out the ones that are a little too on the crazy side who really want to see the obliteration of all Jews and Israeli Jews especially. Um, Her stance with like Queers for Palestine when within the Palestinian forces they have their own kind of anti-homophobic like imprisoning homosexuals and throwing them off of rooftops. I wish they'd address that a little bit more because that's actually a thing that's not conspiracy or propaganda. But I do agree with you though that regardless, she has the right to say that. I wish she was just a little more nuanced in her stance, was I'm sure is just in the best interest of the Palestinians and the Gaza ceasefire. I'm all about the Gaza ceasefire. I don't like this Hamas Israel situation turning into the new 9/11 where we're supposed to rah and go after Gaza with all we got. I'm not down for that. And then finally, I just wish that just with her stance, well, not really just with her stance, but I just hope that like you mentioned earlier about censorship, I think Rashida Tlaib has the right to say that stuff, say whatever she says. I agree with it. No one should censor what she's saying. But at the same time, Rashid Tlaib on the other issues, most times out of 10, she has been pro censorship when it came to COVID, when it came to the vaccine, when it came to Ukraine, when it came to, gay trans rights and not like just hey we just want to get married and be like everybody else, but kind of the pro gender the gender radical ideology. So it's hard for me, like I get it, I can kind of side with her on this single issue. I get it. I'm pro ceasefire, I'm pro peace, I'm anti-war, but at the same time, like okay, she's getting you guys good concessions in your neighborhood, but at the same time, there's like these 4 or 5 other issues long term that are really going to create issues for our own community. But she's all for it. She's in lockstep with a lot of that Democrat agenda that I can't rock with. I could rock with her on this one case, pro, ceasefire, but there's still a lot of other things where she was just in lockstep WEF, Klaus Schwab agenda. There's been stuff where she's been confronted on those issues and she just wouldn't say anything. So I get it. I can still agree with her on the little local work she's doing, but like you mentioned, Republican Democrat, she is part of that larger uniparty agenda where yeah, we may be getting a little bit of carrots and a little bit of concessions at the local level, but she's in lockstep with a lot of the bigger Democrat agenda that I just can't rock with. So that'd be my only criticism of her.
This is not. I want to say something that is not necessarily specifically directed at her.
Yeah.
but just the situation in general and historically its impact on American foreign policy and national policy.
Right.
But I think that in order for a person to work in the U.S. government or run for any office, they should have been U.S. citizens for at least 3 generations.
I agree. I'm with you on that because she's
Because
very.
I think what happens,
Yeah.
because you see that with Anthony Blinken, who was the Secretary of State.
Ilhan Omar, very
Yeah.
anti-American, just
What?
pro. You know.
Well, see, my concern more is because you saw this a lot with like the Cold War and dealing with the Cold War. But what ends up happening is with the Cold War, you had a lot of Eastern Europeans and Europeans in general who came to America and affected U.S. foreign policy. Right? Zbigniew Brzezinski, Mika Brzezinski's father, the one on Morning Joe, her father wrote a book called The Grand Chessboard. He's kind of like considered one of the architects of neoconservatism and this global domination U.S. foreign policy. Henry Kissinger, German-born until he was 13 or 14, whatever we talked about last episode, and his policies with the Soviet Union or Russia or whatever are greatly influenced by the fact that he was born in Germany and had his interactions with them via the Nazis and all that stuff. Anthony Blinken is Jewish, and he said that when he goes to Israel or something, since this conflict has emerged, he says something like when he goes to Israel, he goes as a Jewish person first or as a Jew first. And that is not acceptable for a member of the United States government to go to a foreign country as a representative or a member of that foreign country and not as a representative of the country that he works for, lives in, was born in, and has citizenship in. That's unacceptable. It's totally unacceptable. But that is the mentality. And so I think you have people who have connections to countries that are ancestral countries to them, and they're unable to put the interest of the American people and the country of America first. Now, obviously, that's not foolproof because you have guys like Lindsey Graham,
right?
And you have guys like Mitch McConnell. Right. But I think that a lot of the influence that we find in the U.S. government is a product of the ways in which the people in those positions of power and authority view themselves in America, and they view America. That's why you see a lot of Cubans, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, and those who work in Ron DeSantis, and those who work in South Florida. That's why you see so many of them taking such an hard stances against Cuba, because they have a personal connection to Cuba, right? And so what they do is they use America, its military, its people, its resources, its reach, its influence for their own pet projects in various ways. And that destabilizes our country and makes us all less safe. Now, obviously, you can also include the financial component to understand why guys like Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer and Lindsey Graham do what they do. But that isn't the whole reason. But imagine if when Barack Obama was president, he would have made proclamations that specifically benefited Kenya, for example, because that's where his father is from, or Africa as a continent, because he was an African person, a half African person, right? There would have been an uproar. But you see people in this country who have connections to other countries making statements about how they prioritize those other countries, and nobody has a problem. We need to do something about that. As a nation, And I don't know how we get around that aspect of it. But I mean, I grew up in Rashida Tlaib's district, and the district, the city is really in bad shape, but she still prioritizes her own issues instead of those of the people who live in her district. I have a lot of issues with her, right? I have a lot of issues with her. And if she was to lose her seat, I would not feel bad, but I don't want her to lose her seat to a person who is beholden to a foreign country or to the interests of a foreign country. I don't like that. So I'll leave it at that.
Big facts. Big facts. Great way to add it. All right. So moving on. We're going to try and maybe get a couple more in. Couple on the vaccine. I don't know. Are you feeling in a vaccine mood?
That's fine.
All right. We'll get on these a little briefly. All right. Litigation floodgates are now open for mRNA vaccine injured. Comprehensive list of 90 attorneys around the world available for lawsuits against the vaccine manufacturers. Good luck. All right. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia, Republican from Georgia, held a hearing on the COVID vaccine injuries earlier this month, where she vowed to expose the truth behind the COVID vaccines. Greene was joined by Reps Clay Higgins, Republican from Louisiana, Barry Moore, a Republican from Alabama, Thomas Massey, Republican from Kentucky, and Greg Stube, Republican of Florida, to hear expert testimony from Dr. Robert Malone, Dr. Kimberly Biss, and Thomas Renz, attorney Thomas Renz. He's really good. I've watched a few of his stuff in the Rayburn House Office building. Gateway Pundit has reported extensively on the injuries and sudden deaths that were likely caused by the COVID vaccine, Biden's regime's deadly mandates. You can easily find countless stories of these tragedies by searching "dying suddenly." That's still trippy because, you can still do that. See a lot of died suddenly. All right. Gateway Pundit reported in 2022 that while the United States does not have a vaccine injury compensation program, many Americans who have filed claims after being injured by the experimental COVID vax have not received compensation, and many were denied for not meeting the standard of proof. If the petition is filed and is determined that a vaccine or covered countermeasure caused an injury, the Health Resources and Services Administration, HRSA, an agency of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, has two programs available to compensate the petitioner financially of certain survivors may be eligible for death benefits. The two programs offered are the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program, CICP, and the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. You can read the comparison here. For claims associated with the COVID vaccine or other ones, you can file with the request of the benefits and countermeasures injury. All right, then kind of just, I'll just read this data right here. The CICP's data for fiscal years 2010 to 2023, current as of November 1st, shows a total of 12,000 claims filed, out of which 12,000 are related to the COVID injuries. Almost 96% of claims were related to COVID-19 countermeasures. All this happened after the release of the COVID-19 vaccination. To date, only 38 of these received compensation. This number reflects an increase of only eight as of October 1st. For the sake of time, Gateway Pundit, they can go a little long in the articles. So, Conspiracy Brother, if you'd like to maybe give me your thoughts on kind of where we're at with these COVID vaccines, and I'll give a little. Yeah.
I hope these can go through, because I think people should be able to have some form of restitution. Right. The government agencies, the entities, the government employees, the officials who made money off of these drugs being approved should face some type of jail time.
Yep.
But that movie died suddenly.
Yeah.
That movie died suddenly. It's terrible.
Yeah.
The way that this vaccine seems to have injured people. And there's more and more coming out. You look at all-cause deaths increasing. Heart conditions are increasing. And, you can try to say it's all coincidental or whatever. But based on the fact that these were considered potential
outcomes for these vaccines being instituted, things are shaping right up to look the way people said they would. You know, it's unfortunate. It is really unfortunate that this
What was that?
was an evil situation.
Mm.
You couldn't hear me?
Well, yeah, you cut out for a second, but you're back now.
Okay. I said it's really unfortunate that our government allowed this to happen. That they I feel like allowed is too passive. That they actually did this to us. That they preyed on the American people in the name of a health crisis. But hopefully people are held accountable for it. I don't know if you've ever seen the other movie called Anecdotals, and it is similar to Died Suddenly, but it goes into detail about different people who have long-term health issues as a result of being vaccinated. And I'm grateful that I didn't do it. You know, my family, my immediate family, my wife and kids didn't do it. Had some family members that did it, and so far, no known health negative health effects. So hopefully maybe they got, like saline or something. But like I would always tell people, I don't want the newest telephone, new cell phone, because they have issues. And so what makes a person think that I would be willing to, or that it would be wise to take a vaccine, a novel development of a drug that you can't reverse. After you've got that into your body, you can't take it out. So I'm not surprised. I hope this works, because this is a serious problem that I expect to just continue to get worse as we look into things. We already know about the various cover-ups. And so, I mean, it's a matter of time if sincerely they let this to play out.
Yeah, we will have to see. We will have to see. All right. Dr. Peter McCullough, we love him. I don't love the guy, but he's been definitely speaking out against the COVID vaccines the past few years. Here's another one, just related to, and we'll probably skip to the next one. But I just thought this headline was at least sort of noteworthy. U.S. Navy medical officer exposes Defense Department data showing alarming increase in heart-related issues among pilots following COVID vaccine. Myocarditis up by 151%, heart failure up by 973%. I'm not gonna really deep dive on this one, but this kind of, I think the High Wire podcast, Del Bigtree over there, he used to be like a producer on the Doctor Show. It's kind of go off. We went on to do the movie Vaxxed. He became a big outspoken advocate. He had a guy, an air pilot on, I think an airline pilot on, maybe earlier this year or late part of last year when the COVID vaccine mandates were still in full swing. And basically, he had on the airline pilot came on there with his lawyer, and they were just talking about how literally the FSA or whatever the airline, the basic institution is that regulates the airlines pilots. Basically, they ended up dropping the threshold of like heart conditions. So basically saying like, instead of you having this really good heart condition in order to fly, we're going to drop it down to like a mid-tier requirement. And they kind of just did it very silently. So you guys could look that up. It's not conspiracy. That was a whole episode of the High Wire where they had them on an interview. So just kind of to piggyback off of this one, just for the sake of time, the writing's on the wall. The pro-vax sort of Democrat side, they just want to keep announcing this as conspiracy theory, but at the same time, while these articles, especially the Gateway Pundit, has a political bias, they still back it up with receipts that you can kind of look up data and whatnot, So that's just something I wanted to kind of hit on before we go to the next conspiracy, brother. Anything you want to touch on in this one? Got these vax pilots.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard this. I've heard about the increase in heart-related issues among a lot of different work groups.
Yeah.
And so, again, when you take for granted that your government is interested in, and this is not a condemnation of all governments, I'm speaking specifically about the U.S. government. When you take for granted that your government is out to kill you, you leave yourself open to be killed. You know what I mean? And they don't care because they make money at our expense, and they don't work for us, and we have no control over them anymore, and we haven't done the things necessary to regain control. So we're going to continue to be at the mercy of these tyrants and monsters,
All right. Moving on. All right, Diddy. And Diddy's been they've been coming for Diddy. These sexual allegations and scandals. This article's a little older, but I'll touch on it a little briefly. Or did you want to or Conspiracy Brother, if you could maybe if you want to read like just a few paragraphs of it. And maybe we could touch on this Diddy situation.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Let me take a drink.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're going hard tonight. Once again, Uncomfy Truths. Those of y'all tuning in, we here every bi-weekly on Fridays. I'm conservative brother here with Conspiracy Brother, and we break down articles. We find out the truth. We call out the BS, and we point out the truth in it. So.
Okay, so it says Sean Diddy Combs temporarily steps aside as chairman of Revolt TV network. Jonathan Franklin. This is from NPR. Sean Diddy Combs has temporarily stepped down as chairman of Revolt, the TV network he co-founded in 2013. A spokesperson for the record executive confirmed to NPR. The move follows news of lawsuits against him alleging sexual abuse. Combs made the decision to step aside from the media network last week, according to TMZ, which first broke news of his departure. It's not clear when he plans on returning as chairman. In a statement published by Revolt on Instagram Tuesday morning, the Black music television company said it will continue with its mission of creating, quote, meaningful content for the culture, end quote. And that's really tired. That whole for the culture BS is tired.
I know.
That's that buzzword BS that lets you know that a person is really connected to the liberals, the Democrats, the neoliberal talking points in the way of thinking, the liberal hive mind. Okay, nobody talks like that.
That's just as bad as woke. They didn't ruin woke.
Nobody talks like that. Nobody talks like that. Maybe somebody said it one time, once, and now this has become some catchphrase for the anonymous multitude of Negroes in America. This don't exist. Nobody says for the culture. Nobody says that. Nobody says that. It isn't a thing. No one says this. No one talks like this. No one. No real human being talks like this. Quote, our focus has always been on one that reflects our commitment to the collective journey of revolt. One that is not driven by any individual, but by the shared efforts and values of our entire team on behalf of advancing, elevating, and championing our culture, and that continues, end quote. Companies. More of that culture bullshit.
Yeah. So, if you want to read some more, you can.
Okay. News of Combs stepping down from his post comes days after 3 women came forward to accuse the music mogul of sexual abuse. Now, I'm not going to say he didn't do it. Right. I'm not going to say that he did. But what I will say is because he settled with Cassie, you're going to have women coming off the woodwork to get paid.
Yeah.
Women want to be paid. Everybody wants to be paid. But these women want to be paid. And this is how they're going to get paid. The lawsuits were filed the week of the expiration of the Adult Survivors Act. Look at that. The dragnet catches all. A New York law permitting victims.
Ooh, yeah, you're right. We can't rush past that. That's the same act that New York put in the statute to get Trump, right?
As far as I know, yes.
So we need to go over that because a lot of the black folks act all about the culture. Oh, we love Diddy. Oh, and they're probably all about get Trump. And guess what? They opened the floodgates now. So we got this act that set the president for E.G. Carroll, whatever her name is, to come after Trump. Now we got this same one coming after Diddy. So I just wanted to put that out there for the Trump, for the get Trump folks that think that it's going to end with Trump once Trump's in jail. And now we're seeing the effect of Trump derangement syndrome. But continue, good sir. Continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you say that they got Eric Adams recently too? Did you say that? I was reading something.
Eric Adams may have been under that statute as well.
No, yeah, that's what just got him too. The Adult Survivors Act.
Yeah, and all this precedent was rolled out for Trump. And now look what's going on.
So this is a New York law permitting victims of sexual abuse a year-long window to file civil action despite the statute of limitations. The singer, who's one of the lawsuits filed against Combs, was a federal suit arguing that the record producer raped, sex trafficked, and abused his former girlfriend, Cassie. The singer, whose real name is Cassandra Ventura, filed the $30 million lawsuit last Thursday, alleging a history of coercion and abuse that went on for more than a decade. According to the lawsuit, Combs and Ventura met when she was 19 years old and Combs was 37 in 2006. Ventura signed a record deal with Combs' label Bad Boy Records. Following the signing of the deal, Combs then settled himself into Ventura's life as he gained control of all aspects of her life while plying her with drugs and alcohol, the lawsuit alleged. But a day after the pop singer Ventura filed the lawsuit against Combs, the two parties settled the case out of court. And scroll down.
Oh, yeah.
Cassie's attorney, Douglas Wigdor, issued a statement about the settlement the following day, saying that Combs and Ventura were both satisfied with the deal they had struck. The statement did not disclose the terms of the agreement. I have decided to resolve this matter amicably on terms that I have some level of control. I want to thank my family, fans, and lawyers for their unwavering support, Ventura said in a statement. Ben Braffman, Combs' lawyer, issued a statement on November 18th, emphasizing his client's innocence. Just so we're clear, a decision to settle a lawsuit, especially in 2023, is in no way an admission of wrongdoing. Mr. Combs' decision to settle the lawsuit does not in any way undermine his flat-out denial of the claims. He is happy they got to a mutual settlement, and he wishes Miss Ventura the best. He added.
Yeah, right.
And so it's a lot of quotes and end quotes I didn't say, but again, they're trying to get money, and if he's willing to settle. However, I don't know who watches Revolt. I don't know what it is. Is it a TV show? Is it a YouTube channel? I don't even know.
Yeah, it came out a while back when we still a little more cable network heavy, 2013 from what it said. But yeah, I never remember like actually turning on the channel and watching it. But I remember when it first came out and the hype, maybe watching segments online, but it was never, he tried to make it into like his own BET, which I respect, but I don't think it ever really popped off like that. Like it does well, I think it does pretty well online. Like they got like an online following, but I don't think the channel's really popped off like that.
I think it's just a vehicle for the Democratic Party to spread its BS to Black people in a way that is safe and they know will be controlled by people who are fine to stand up there like the Negro mascots they are. That's what I think. Because, you will not convince me that he has any hand on any pulse in the community, in the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about the culture and all this. That's BS. That's total BS. You don't have your finger on the pulse of the culture or the community. Now, sure, there, you can look online and find people wearing or supporting revolt in some capacity, but I don't think it's a stretch to say that this whole thing is propped up by liberal ideology, the Democratic Party specifically, in a way to capture the minds and the votes of Black people. That's it.
Oh yeah,
again,
yeah. This is in the circle of like the Breakfast Club, Charlemagne, and they kind of doing the whole, yeah, we thoughts for the people, for the culture. We got bringing in Kamala Harris who could rap the lyrics to Atomic Dog, oh, just like us, or Hillary Clinton, bringing her in, and they ask her, what you keep in your purse? Oh, I keep hot sauce in my purse. It's that vein, of like Black folks just being programmed basically.
And it's such a weird situation for somebody to say, especially in her position, that you just carry hot sauce in your purse. Like, man, get out of here, bro.
Yeah, like she would like she would actually say that on her next appointment at like the Hamptons Country Club. They asked her the same damn question. She gonna say hot sauce. Get the fuck out of here. Pandering, fucking, Yeah. Anyway, anything else you want to add to that?
Like,
damn.
That's what it amounts to. It's racist stereotype.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. My mother never did that. My grandmothers never did that. My wife doesn't do that. If I do bring hot sauce with me, it's because I'm going somewhere that hot sauce is typically going to be provided. And I know that the hot sauce they have is not the hot sauce I like. And I'll carry it in myself.
It was bullshit. It was trendy. That was the year. That was 2016. That was Beyonce Lemonade year. Lemonade. I keep hot sauce in my bag. Swag. So it's just nothing but just typical. And I can't even just blame Hillary. It's just Democrats and like Republicans. They'll be a little more. They're not gonna really pander to that level. They pander very little, to be honest. Republicans just tell you straight up. But yeah, it's like Beyonce, Lemonade, pander and shit. Anyway, all right, cool. All right, we got 3 more, y'all. Let's try and get out of here, conspiracy brother. We got about 20 minutes left. I mean, we're 2 hours and 10 minutes left. I'd say we try and get out of here about 2.5 hours. So we got about 20 minutes. I'd say let's spend about 10 more minutes with these last. We got 3 more articles. All right, we're gonna try and get through these next, let's say 20 minutes. See if we can make it happen.
Sounds good.
All right, cool. All right, next up. I know we gateway pundit heavy. I know we're not a very heavily partisan, regardless of my conservative title. I hold some very traditional conservative views, but I call out a lot of shit on a lot of different sides. So Gateway's pundit's pretty biased in some of his wording, but they come with receipts. So I thought was an interesting one. Black Lives Matter leader sees light and reveals he's backing Donald Trump for president next year. Joe Biden's problems with minority voters continues to worsen. This comes from, once again, Cullen Linebarger over at Gateway Pundit. Joe Biden's problems with minority voters continues to worsen as they realize how much they lost while Donald Trump was president. Now a leader from far-left Black Lives Matter is seeing the light. Mark Fisher is the co-founder of organization's Rhode Island chapter. He was a lifelong Democrat, but became disgruntled and ditched the party recently. Gateway pundits Alice Powell recently reported that Fisher had been a staunch reporter of the J6 prisoners, persecuted by the Biden regime. He even led a national prayer outside the E. Barrett Perryman courthouse in D.C. on August 30th to protest the sentencing of the Proud Boys Enrique Tarrio, who got 20 years, by the way, and he wasn't even at the Capitol. He was online giving support. And Ethan Nordian. Now he's decided the best way to send a message is to support Trump, the man responsible for creating the most prosperity for minority voters in American history. Fisher went on Fox and Friends Tuesday morning to explain why he was backing Trump. His take on Democrats are absolutely scathing, while his words toward Trump could not have been warmer. Here's a little tweet from the show. Okay, relevant transcript. Fox and Friends co-host Lawrence Jones said, "This is the favorite story of the day because it identifies what I've seen in the barbershop. All the brothers are turning tides now against the Democrats and towards Trump. What is the big reason?" Fisher says, "I think personally is the duplicity of the Democrats. We're not stupid. The brothers are not stupid. We understand when someone's for us and when someone is not. And it's obvious the Democratic Party is not for us. Their policies actually strike at the heart of the black community and the nuclear family." Jones, you were part of the Black Lives Matter. You founded it there, Rhode Island. What is it about Donald Trump? What is going to take him to the shore to shore up the support amongst black voters? Fisher says it's just going to take information. A lot of people are misinformed. They don't really understand because they don't educate themselves on Donald Trump as a person in his history. If they do that, I think it will happen on its own. Personally, I love the man. I mean, how can you not like a real man? How could you not relate to someone like that? Jones, if you had the opportunity to talk to the former president, I'm sure he's watching right now. What would you say to him? Fisher, I stumped for Trump. Fisher then reaffirmed to Jones that he's still a member of the Black Lives Matter, but that he preaches a message of unity rather than division. I want to bring all marginalized groups to the center because we're stronger together as one nation under God. One hopes that he will have success both in his mission to reelect Trump and in knocking some sense into BLM, the latter, which will likely prove more difficult. In August, the Gateway pundit Alicia Powell had an exclusive interview with Fisher in front of the federal courthouse in Washington, D.C. All right, Conspiracy Brother, want to give your thoughts? I think we got about the gist of it.
So,
yeah.
I think there's another story coming out of Chicago or the Chicago NAACP president or branch chair or something saying some things about immigrants.
Oh yeah,
in the way that the Democratic Party, the way that the Democratic Party in Chicago has dealt with the immigrant situation, and I think you're going to see more of this type of pushback. I personally don't think that either of these, political parties is a legitimate option. Right. I'm almost hesitant now to think that Trump is going to be some type of change, and I think if he wins again, he may be compromised.
Right.
I'd like to be wrong, because I think, as a chaos agent, he's most useful. And I don't necessarily mean chaos in the sense of destruction, but I just mean doing what is in the best interest of the American people and the country. But I don't know. He made decisions. He made decisions that I think were bad, and I've heard decisions that he was contemplating making that were bad or that are bad. And so, we just kind of have to see where things go. But I'm not, what can you say to him besides, you could say, I guess he's what can the Democrats say to counteract his feelings?
Right.
As a former leader or leader of Black Lives Matter in Connecticut or Rhode Island.
Oh, he's a self-hating. He's been brainwashed into a self-hating.
Right. But nothing, so nothing substantive. And that's my point.
Like white supremacy.
His experience
his experience has been that the Democratic Party has essentially, um, what do you call it? I'm drawing a blank on the word. The Democratic Party has essentially abandoned the black community.
Right.
And so he wants to take his hand at having a second Trump presidency. You have nothing really to lose. I'm not advocating for anybody to vote for Trump or not.
Right.
That is your decision to make. I personally would advocate for everybody not to vote. Don't waste their time. Go, go to a gun range and learn how to get better at using your weapons. I think would be a better use of your energy and time.
Yep.
But if you want to vote for Trump, hey, do what you want. If you want to vote for Biden, do what you want. I think the interesting thing that I would note is, for me, I feel about Biden voters the same way they feel about Trump voters. I look at them as the same. At best, they're the same. But they have this smug sense of self-satisfaction that they voted for Biden.
Yeah.
But I think Biden is definitely the greater evil, but he's also just a piece of trash in general.
Yeah. Well said. Were you about to say something?
No, nothing else.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I can kind of go on Trump. A lot of things I don't like. I think, if anything, as the default, he would at least get in there, and he just has to surround himself with a lot. I mean, there's a lot to it. I mean, he's got to surround himself with better advisors, less swamp creatures. At the same time, like, while there are some mutual interests that, at least when it comes to kind of immigration, the trans agenda, and some other things that, the Democrats' years of abuse on the black community, that we can align with Trump with. At the same time, there's no politician or president on the left or the right we should ever put our entire savior into. No one is a savior. We can only save ourselves, like you said, still become self-reliant, go to the gun range, learn how to grow food, on top of, and then if you want to go vote for a candidate, go right ahead. I would just feel like, at least with Trump, we would at least get some sort of retribution from the deep state, since it's a little personal for him now. He's going through the ringer. Maybe he can get in their first 100 days and clean out some of the deep state. But other than that, I'm not like resting my laurels and think one Trump's going to save us over anyone else. But yeah, definitely a good point. I'm glad some black people are waking up. And I just, because once again, we already know Republicans aren't shit as far as like the Republican Party goes. But black people just need to wake up and learn that Democrats aren't shit either, in that same amount. So this is hopefully just a small, piece of more and more black folks waking up to, at least, whatever you feel about the Republicans, you should also feel that way about the Democrats as well. All right, second to the last article. We're going to keep things moving. We got about, try to wrap this up in about 10 minutes. So let's see if we can get about 5 minutes each on this. Conspiracy Brother, however much of this you want to feel like reading, whether you want to read the whole article or just the first few paragraphs, and we can kind of touch on this real quick. Well, whenever you're ready.
Okay. So, fraud alert. Democrat, quote, wins, end quote. Louisiana election by one vote after dead people somehow cast ballots, but there's no verifiable paper trail thanks to state using faulty voting machines. Yep. So, Caddo Parish, Louisiana, it turns out that voting can make a difference even when you are dead. This is especially the case if there is no paper trail ensuring election results are accurate. Democrat Henry Whitehorn and Republican John Nicholson faced off in a November 18 election to determine who would become the next Caddo Parish sheriff. The final results showed the candidates separated by just a single vote. Out of more than 43,000 cast, and Whitehorn was declared the winner. Nilsson rightfully requested a recount to respect the, quote, will of the people. To respect. Mouse is kind of covering it up. The will of the people. My mouse, not your mouse. My mouse.
Oh.
My mouse is over.
Gotcha.
This extraordinarily narrow margin absolutely requires a hand recount to protect the integrity of our democratic process and to ensure we respect the will of the people. Nicholson noted that there were multiple irregularities that accounted for the final result, including dead voters being counted and people who voted twice. We know that at least 2 voters voted twice, and that the votes of at least 5 people who were deceased as of election day were counted. Okay, the Caddo Parish Sheriff election was decided by 1 vote. Did you know? Okay. But as the Associated Press notes, Louisiana law only permits absentee ballots to be tallied again and checked for errors. Absentee ballots are the only auditable paper trail under Louisiana's current voting system and represented only 17% of the total vote in the runoff race. Yes, the Pelican State has no way of ensuring the accurate vote count for in-person ballots. They instead blindly rely on faulty electronic voting machines bought back in 2005, which do not produce a paper trail. The tight race shines a spotlight on Louisiana's recount process and its outdated voting machines, which do not produce an auditable paper trail that experts say is critical to ensuring election results are accurate. Louisiana uses paperless touchscreen voting machines bought in 2005. Once the most modern voting machine technology, today Louisiana is the only place where they are still used statewide.
That explains a lot.
The Gateway Pundit has extensively reported on how faulty voting machines can alter election results. The most glaring example of this is Georgia during the 2020 presidential election. Earlier this month, votes were flipped in Pennsylvania in the Democrats' favor across several counties thanks to supposed coding error in the voting machines there. A recount of mail-in ballots Monday affirmed Whitehorn's victory by the exact same 1-vote margin, according to the Louisiana Illuminator. Whitehorn and Nicholson both picked up 3 votes to each in the recount. Okay.
I think that's it. It's the last part.
Okay. Nicholson responded by filing a lawsuit later that day, demanding Caddo District Court to declare a winner or order a new runoff election. KSLA reports the petition is set to be heard 9:30 a.m. Thursday, November 30th, by Caddo District Judge Raymond Lafitte. A ruling could come as soon as that day or the next. KSLA notes if the district court's ruling is appealed, the case will then be heard by the Second Circuit Court of Appeal. If the appellate court's opinion is appealed, the case could advance to the Louisiana Supreme Court, but no further.
Oof. So I'll just give a little, just so you kind of rest a bit. Yeah, I mean, vote and election integrity has been an issue for quite a while now. It was really something that the Democrats kind of championed back in the day. There's actually, I think, a documentary came out like 0506, Hacking Democracy. And they were all up in arms about the 2000 election, Bush winning. I think there was some foolery going on there with the Florida recount, 2004 with John Kerry. So for a while, there was a consensus on we shouldn't have these electronic voting machines and still have the paper backup and kind of the war between the two. And then come, 2016, I believe it was a little bit of both, or at the same time, like I feel like every election, including the 2016 one, had its share of voter fraud at some level. I just think it becomes a matter of like how much can you kind of mess with the margins. And I think 2016, while there was, I think, voter fraud on both sides, I still think Donald Trump kind of came in and had a larger portion to where you couldn't really fudge the vote. But do I think election integrity and voter fraud still exists? Absolutely. There's been a harvest balloting, a ballot harvesting for years now. That once again, one party may have embraced it, and now the Democrats really embraced it since last maybe 8-10 years of the elections. So I think there was fraud involved in this. Obviously, they show a few receipts. There's always a little ambiguity for doubt, but I just didn't believe. And I think somebody in our group chat, a certain individual, shared this like, "Oh, every vote counts." When I saw that like one vote, they passed by one vote, I knew it was bullshit. You know. But guess what? The Democrats do it and the Republicans do it. The Democrats are just a little bit more sleazy with it, a little unapologetic. Um, and they use the voting machines to their advantage because they're so salty about Trump getting in office and the Bush 2000 back-to-back elections, in my opinion. So I know it's a little more nuanced and not just one side, but that's kind of my initial thoughts on it. Conspiracy brother, you can give me your 2 cents before we move on to the last. Conspiracy brother. I don't know if you're still here. I can't hear you. Still there, bro? All right. Okay. Conspiracy brother, you may type in the chat. Still here. If not, I'm gonna maybe move on to the last article. See you're here, but I don't hear your audio working. All right. Okay. Hold on a second. All right, y'all. We might move on to the next article, which is from the Gateway Pundit. Sorry, but there's a lot of these articles we didn't get to last time. So we got to knock these out because they're already super old. Um, but this last one from the Gateway Pundit, they're very biased. They have their bias, but they do provide links and receipts. So go do your research. I'm trying to get Conspiracy Brother back on. Not sure what's going on. I see he's still on here. I can't hear him. So Conspiracy Brother, if you're there, I'm gonna move on to the last article. Just to kind of since I see the stream still going. All right, so Target learned nothing from their Pride fiasco. Hires gay Cruella for LGBTQ marketing. My God. All right. Less than a year after watching their sales and stocks drop, Target has reportedly hired a man who goes by Gay Cruella as their senior LGBTQIA segmentation strategist. What is a segmentation strategist? Anybody help me out in the chat? And Pride lead. Pride lead. All right. Gay Cruella, whose real name is Eric Thompson, announced he will be leading Target's LGBTQIA multicultural merchandising strategy and Pride businesses in a post on Instagram. Thompson's social media says he uses he, him, his, her pronouns. I don't even know how that works. The hire was flagged by the popular libs of TikTok. Let's see here. Libs of TikTok. Yeah, of course, Liz of TikTok, they do great work. Literally just reposting what they're doing. So the left gets all upset. Like, how dare you? This is a far right wing account. Like, we are literally reposting stuff that you guys already posted. The platform formerly known as Twitter. Remember when at Target sold tucking swimwear for kids and their sales dropped, stocks plummeted, and they were sued by shareholders? Lives of TikTok wrote, apparently they didn't learn their lesson because they just hired an LGBTQ activist to lead their LGBTQIA multicultural merchandising strategy, which is all facts. Was already threatening to make trouble after laughing about the backlash Target received. So there it is, Twitter tweet from or X tweet from Libs of TikTok. It's a pretty entertaining account to follow. Basically calling out this gay Cruella. Once again, we are accepting of all people They can do what they want, live how they want to live. It's just a very disturbing how kind of they just really kind of push this on kids and yeah, it's a little weird. In the post announcing this new position, Thompson wrote, "I want to make art arty. I want to make trouble." A line from Disney's Cruella live action Cruella. Lizard TikTok also pointed out another social media post in which he tagged Target corporate headquarters and wrote, "I want to make trouble." Oh, you want to lose? You want a company to lose money and lose chops? Time to whip out the glitter and hellfire flamethrowers and rip that old world to shreds, darlings. A self-proclaimed Target corporate employee said, according to multiple reports. One commentator wrote on social media, "LOL, you gonna make Target sales tank too?" In which Thompson replied, "Yes, I will make sales tank." Wow, just owned it. I respect the man. You just owned it. Yes, yes, I will make sales tank. So they go in there with just their political agenda in mind. You know, forget fiduciary responsibility, forget sales, bottom line, forget target loyal customer base market. It's the same way. Like even there was like a big gay brand out there whose target was gay consumers. I don't care if I'm far right conservative. I'm not going to demand I go to that company and they need more inclusive, conservative, middle America, Bible Belt customers in their company. It's like, no, they're profitable. They have this LGBTQ like audience. Who am I to go in there and just fuck shit up? But of course, they don't think about that. According to his LinkedIn account, Thompson has worked for Target since 2014, previously as a business analyst and a buyer. His new position was listed in November. In July, 7 Republican attorneys sent a letter to Target warning that the Pride Month displays may violate state laws to protect children from harmful content, to sexualize them, and prohibit gender transitions. Okay, all right, last part of the article. Conspiracy brother, if you're still there, if not, let me know. Seems you cut out a bit. All right. So, last part of this article. This year, Target reportedly promoted and sold products in our states that included, among other products, LGBTQ themed onesies, bibs, overalls, t-shirts labeled "gay," "girls, gays, theys," "pride adult drag queen Katya," which depicts a male dressed in a female drag, and girls swimsuits with tuck-friendly construction, extra crotch coverage for male genitalia. The letter said. Target also included merchandise by the self-declared Satanist-inspired brand Abra, Ab, uh, Abprallen, which is known for designs that glorify violence. These designs include the phrases "We bash back" with a heart-shaped mace and the trans colors flag. Oh, how fitting for the Nashville shooter. I'm sure she would have loved that. He or she would have loved that. Transphobe collector with skull, homophobe headrest with skulls beside a pastel guillotine. Wow. Target also sold products with anti Christian designs such as pentagrams, horn skulls, other satanic products. One such design phrase, Satan respects pronouns, with the horn ram representing Baphomet, half human, half animal, Methodite worship by the occult. After news of Target's Pride campaign went viral, the conservative boycott caused the company's stock to plummet 16%. All right, so that's the long story short. Usually this time, me and Conspiracy Brother will break this down, but you guys pretty much get the gist of it. Um, Let me go ahead and see if I can get Conspiracy Brother on the phone. All right, so once again, this is Uncomfy Truths, providing your bi-weekly dose of a black face trapped in a woke place, sharing uncomfy truths and common sense in a nonsense world. So once again, I don't have my partner in crime here to kind of break this down, but you guys pretty much gets the gist of it. I'll just give my brief commentary. We'll kind of just end here. Once again, I don't have an issue with him living his life with the community and all that stuff. It's just when it comes to sexualizing children, and I think the last line, paragraph of this article kind of summed it up. You're selling this sort of, call it free expression, but obviously there's something not too family friendly going on here. And I think people have the right to complain. They have the right to People have the right to make this sort of stuff, and guess what? People have the right to boycott it. Um, and it's just nothing. The same way I have an issue with a straight woman bringing a kid to a strip club is the same issue I have with a kid going to a drag show. Sexualization, it's the same thing. This is creepy as hell, whatever that is. It's a creepy doll. It's like Chucky and the trolls had a baby. But long story short, sexualization is sexualization, whether it's a gay drag queen or a straight female stripper. And all of it should be called out. And people have the right to make this sort of stuff or have it on their website. And then people who see it on the Target website or in the store have the right to boycott it. It's a live and let live world. But this sort of stuff needs to be called out. So that's all I got. Conspiracy brother, not sure what's going on, but I'm going to go ahead and call it. Thank you guys that are still here. It's may have been our record longest stream or episode, but this is episode 16 of Uncomfy Truths. And we will keep bringing you these articles and just our breakdown from our perspective. Because, as they say, the late Andrew Breitbart said, politics is downstream from culture. So we got to keep calling out the culture as well as, and how it affects our politics. All right. So I hope you guys had a great, those of you 2 or 3 that tuned in or may watch this in the future. Hope this provides another better nuanced perspective from not only a black experience, but just from an uh, you know, open-minded, well aware of what the government's doing, sort of way. All right, y'all have a good one, and I will talk to you guys later. Have a good night.